Unshelling Medicine Podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, welcome to our conversation today. I have the pleasure of having Carmen Theobald with me today. We met times ago, and she's just one of those people that you have a conversation with that you actually don't want it to stop. She's very therapeutic in her ways of talking to people and, listening. She's an active listener, so she's been able to use her kind nature to channel into establishing a business that helps people. A lot of people that actually do need the help, that society sometimes see them as Superman, Superwomen only. So we're going to talk about a lot of that. And Carmen is also the founder and director of Horse and Snuff. So we're going to talk about that and human relationship and dealing with, the mountain and valleys of it all. So you're going to get something from this conversation. I know so. So Carmen, welcome.
Thank you so much, Idongesit. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I'm grateful you made time to be here today for our conversation. So let's talk about Horse and Snuff. Catch a name. So how did that come about?
Sure. So Horse Sense North, I started it about 10 years ago. And it actually, there's a bit of a longer story of how that really came to be. So I can share that or not, but I'll just say in this very brief answer that it was my way of finding how to bridge the worlds of horses and humans so that we can learn how to be healthier, more connected, more courageous, more clear humans. That I think that's really needed in this world. And sometimes our humanness gets in the way. So horses, whether we're working directly with them or having like a horse-inspired learning, that can help break us out of the human experience so that we can actually become more whole and more fully who we are.
That's beautiful. So what is the relationship? What are the similarities, I should say, between humans and horses that you have seen time and time again?
Sure. Well, it's going to be unique to the individual human and horse to some extent, because just like humans, horses have their own unique personalities and likes and dislikes and backgrounds of whether they've felt safe or unsafe. And so they're going to respond to the world in their own unique way. And there are some very clear through lines and shared qualities that we have in the sense that horses are very emotional beings. They're also very social beings, as are we. Whether we're a person with social anxiety or we don't like other people, whatever the case is, we're still social beings. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to be with each other. And horses, that is so the same. They are in herds. They really are reliant on social dynamics for their well-being and their safety. And they're so tuned in to sensing everything that's going on under the surface, meaning under the mask. So they really are operating all the time in this very authentic space of what is really going on for them, what is really going on for others. And they're going to respond to us in a way that is seeing the truth in our heart, not judging that, just really responding accurately and accordingly to that. And so we as humans, where we differ is that we can be so committed to wearing the masks and wearing the armor to protect our authentic self, to hide our authentic self. And horses can really help to bring that more and more to the surface in lots of ways. And learning to be in relationship with them is so helpful for us to be able to do that, both powerfully and gently at the same time. So, there's lots of different pieces I can say on that, but I would add that I've worked with thousands of horses, and they've truly been my greatest teachers and healers. And I see how they show up for others in that kind of way as well. We've evolved with horses for thousands, if not millions of years. And the work that we do, it's not riding, not that I have anything against riding if it's done ethically and well and compassionately, but this work is really with them at liberty, meaning they're free, they're on the ground. we get to learn really truthful relationship building with them because they have their voice and choice in how they're interacting with us safely and still truthfully. And so that process can really help us learn what it means to be more true to who we are as well.
Beautiful. So the clients you've worked with at Horse Sense North, what level of need would a typical client of yours have in coming to start that journey of being in nature, being with these incredible creatures to learn and heal alongside them?
Yeah, I appreciate your question. And I also appreciate your careful consideration of how you're asking. So much of our society makes us feel like we're broken, like we are at fault for not thriving in a sick system. So it's not to say that those terms aren't valuable and have a purpose and a place to help us navigate what we're navigating, but it can also be rightfully triggering when it's like, well, not only does that sometimes make us feel like we're stuck in that place, like that's our label, that's our identity, but it's also really not the whole picture. And I think that that's connected really to my answer as well, because our work, I put into kind of 3 pillars of our work. We offer personal growth, leadership and team development, and we do quite a bit of trauma recovery. But the thing is, it doesn't matter really which category people find us through. The horses are offering us, and the horse medicine, if you will, whether we're with them directly or not, is offering us the same through line no matter what lens we're coming from, which is, in my view, a lens of healing. Whether we're coming for personal growth, whether we're coming for leadership and team development, whether we're coming because of some kind of obvious trauma or traumatic background or some kind of connected diagnosis or label around that, it doesn't actually matter, because it's more about how do we learn how to be more whole. And that process of learning to be more whole personally, professionally, in a way that requires a therapist by my side, in a way that's not requiring a therapist by my side. By the way, I'm a coach and facilitator. So we work with a lot of different mental health professionals. And so sometimes in our work, like for example, we do a lot of work with public safety personnel, a lot of first responders. I'm always going to have a therapist with me for that work. And then I often have people reaching out, generally just wanting some extra wellness tools and just having an experience that connects them a little bit more deeply with themselves, maybe for spiritual reasons or for just general interest or whatever that might look like. Such a variety. But no matter what the purpose, no matter what the reason is someone signed up, there's this through line of healing, because at some point in our world, or many points in our world, we have disconnected from our true self to some extent. Yeah. We have maybe even felt a sense of fracturing, like there's parts of us that are missing or broken, or not that we are broken, but that part of us is kind of broken apart. And so how do we come back together? How do we feel whole again? How do we make space for all the parts of us that exist? The ones that have been outcasts, the ones that we have hidden away that we don't even know are hiding anymore, the parts of us that we know are there, that we can taste and smell, but we just can't quite seem to access. That's the healing. And it doesn't have to be in this deep kumbaya kind of, big ordeal kind of way. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it can be joyful and laughter-filled and light and revealing in this brilliant, beautiful way. And sometimes it's all those things, but there's also this heaviness, but it's freeing. Yeah. So there's this aspect of feeling more free when we feel more whole. And I think that connection to all that, no matter how it's approached, no matter what aspect of it we're addressing, without going into the story, might I add, right? This is not about the narrative. This is not about the backstory. This is not about going deep into the whatever trauma talk there might be, or not even trauma talk, just whatever ideas we might have about why things are the way they are. Not that that's a problem. We need that support too. We need to be going to therapy if that's a thing for us, or having that coach or that support or that friend who we can really go into the deeper story. But this is about healing in the body. This is about coming together in who we are so that we actually feel whole. Not so that we can think about it differently, although that happens. That's kind of a byproduct. Right. But it's so that in our body, we can feel more like who we are, more confident, more empowered, more free.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm very thank you for riffing off of being careful to using certain labels. I'm in healthcare, and I have seen time and time again where labels are crippling to people, and it stifles their healing process. You talked about first responders and the great work you're doing with that group. I know you and I talked about this the last time we had a conversation. And this week kind of like brings everything full circle. I had a gentleman that one of my students was assigned to care for. And during the medication administration and assessment, usually with my students in the room, and I went in and I said, good morning as usual. And something about the way I said good morning to him, this is him later on telling me, just did something to his opening up to me. And I introduced myself, and, my student introduced why I was there in the room with her, because she was in there prior. So there was a medication that was going to be administered, and he asked my student a question. I was like, I hope I'm not disturbing. I said, no, I need you to ask her questions, because she needs to know what medication she's giving you and why. So there was a particular medication that was to be administered to him. And he said, yeah, that's because I'm an alcoholic, and the light just went out when he said that. So I said, okay. I knew I was there. I knew there's a protocol that is used for withdrawals, or when somebody's admitted in the hospital. The abbreviation is CIWA, CIWA. So it is that a tool that is used to score. And I said, I didn't ask about the alcoholism. I just said, what was the trigger this time? That was the conversation.
That's so much more holistic.
Oh my goodness. And the floodgates open. It's like nobody has ever asked me that. And he was in the hospital for almost a week. He said, nobody's scared to ask me what happened. It was, why did you do it again? Why did you do it again? It's time for you to stop. It's time for you to stop. You're risking your life. You almost got killed, because he had a car accident out of this. So I'm saying this to say, when we talk to people, it is important to remember we're still humans. Behind that label, there's a human being behind that label, behind whatever is going on. And unfortunately, this is somebody that is a caregiver to an elderly father that found his father in the middle of the night, almost choking on his own mucus. And thank goodness he responded on time, and he saved his father's life. But he was also, I don't know if you remember when Sully landed the plane on the Hudson River.
Yeah.
Okay. So the captain of that dock, who rescued everybody from the plane, right? And nobody got in the water, and it was the middle of a winter, and hypothermia would have killed people within 10 to 15 minutes. That was the guy. Talk about first responders. So I wouldn't have known this if I did not respond with compassion. And nobody in the hospital knew about the story. And he was adamant in taking my name. It's like nobody has invested in me or talked to me other than my diagnosis since I've been here. And I feel you came in here and you heard me. So please, it's not because we are sensitive as a society or sensitive as a people. It's because sometimes we use diagnosis to block out the humanity behind it. Whether it's an addiction, whether it's a state of not wanting to socialize with people, whatever it is, there's a human behind that. And they're not just doing that because they feel like hurting themselves. Usually there's a reason behind it, right? So just meet people with compassion and talk beyond the labels. So segueing into your work with first responders. So how did that start? How fulfilling is that, journey for you, and what happens in that process?
Sure. Well, I just love what you just shared, Idongesit. Thank you so much for sharing that story. It's so powerful to have different kinds of reminders in life about that in particular, that we have to balance the self-responsibility with understanding where we actually fit in an ecosystem of our social networks, that we are also impacted so greatly by the environments that we're in, and that we're really not set up for success as an individual in this society in this kind of way. So it's not to say that we don't always have an ability to choose something else, although some people don't, right? That's a piece of this too, but that we have some choices in our life that can help us. Yes, self-responsibility is important, but it's given such unhealthy weight considering how little accountability there is for the greater systems that are causing harm. So, it's just wonderful to have that conversation. And it's very connected actually to the work that we do with first responders. The biggest challenge or trauma that these people who are serving our communities experience, doesn't matter if we're talking about emergency medical services, paramedics, or firefighters, police, the thing that they are talking about the most, and we work with all kinds of people from many walks of life, and public safety personnel is a very broad term as well. We work with military, we work with doctors and nurses and social workers and, so many people. And I would say that this is pretty true across the board, especially within the first responder community, is that the biggest piece that they're navigating that is hurting them is the sanctuary trauma, is being, let's say they're on a call, let's say a paramedic is on a call, and it's a really hard one. There's so many really hard ones, day in, day out, so many really hard ones. And they're having big emotion or feeling whatever it is. Maybe they feel nothing. Maybe they're numb. Maybe they feel fine, whatever it is. But they come back to the place that is supposed to be their sanctuary, supposed to be their home base, their organization that's supposed to have their back. And maybe they are really struggling and they try to talk to somebody, and someone in a leadership position or even a colleague or a peer shames them, makes them feel like they're weak, like they're broken, like they're not strong enough to do this job, when in reality, they absolutely are. And we just need a place to come back to that feels supportive and safe enough to process the things that we're doing on the job, and also have an environment that, regardless of how they're feeling relating to a call, doesn't feel like it's a predatory system within itself, that there's actually support and encouragement to grow and develop and all these things, instead of having their vulnerabilities used against them in all kinds of ways. And sometimes that's like a death by 1,000 cuts. And sometimes that's one or two major incidents of being very, very let down. But I think that no matter what background listeners might be coming from, whether it's public safety or anything else, I really believe that's a very common experience, whether we're talking personally in our home, maybe growing up, maybe our professional lives, maybe all of the above, our community that we might be part of. Maybe it's not a healthy community, not in blaming the individuals, but there could be lots of different things going on, right? It could be unfolding in really unhealthy ways because people are now protecting themselves because we're growing up in systems that force us to protect ourselves. And then the harm perpetuates and perpetuates and perpetuates. So I wanted to kind of make that link because I think it's just one more reason why we feel that we have to be the solution and we're on our own, but we're just actually not built for that. We're not meant to have that. We're meant to be in supportive community. We're meant to, whether that community is our family, our work environment, our school, what it doesn't matter. Like the group that we're in is meant to be actually feeling connected and safe. And for the vast majority of people, that's not their experience yet. And I'm saying yet because there's a part of me that feels hopeful that even in this world that is so not getting it, and I shouldn't say whole world because there's parts of the world that do get this, and there's a lot that don't. And so can we take steps, especially as things are getting so difficult and the pressure is increasing, toward a healthier reality? And whether it's because of the horses, whether it's because of our whatever, anything that helps, I really believe that it's possible. So I want to throw in that little grain of hope, even though it can feel really tough.
I love it. Yes, it's life. Life is ever evolving, and part of life is also growth in finding new things, finding new communities and new villages. And yes, that hope is very much a thing yet. And when somebody is quite ready to find that healing, it usually happens. That alignment happens in ways that you never imagined. So that's for people that are ready. So Carmen, So for people, in speaking about first responders and caregivers or caretakers, what do we say to the people who are suffering in silence because of the hero cape, right? You're a police officer, you're not supposed to need help. You're a nurse, you're supposed to handle this with, grit. You're a social worker, you're supposed to walk into whatever messed up situation without coming out a bit bruised. You're a community leader, you're whatever, a military person. How detrimental is that superhero cape in having us be vulnerable or acknowledge the help that we need?
Yeah. So I think there's kind of like two lenses on that, right? So for the person who might be wearing the cape and in many ways truly is a hero in lots of scenarios, right? Like I don't want to minimize that piece that people who are serving our communities, who are in service to others in this way, no matter what our role, you are a hero. We are a hero in this world, but also a human hero. So from that person's perspective, but also from the support person's perspective, how do we help each other and how do we help ourselves make more space for the wholeness of who we are? And I think the horses have something really beautiful to offer in that they really invite us to embrace the paradox very well. One of the paradoxes they invite us to embrace is that we actually need to be very strong and vulnerable at the same time. When we're with a horse and we're disempowered, we feel kind of small. We don't have good boundary setting. We feel maybe like we're not deserving of our needs. They don't really feel that safe with us. It's not that they're judging us for that, but they're like, but also I actually have more anxiety now because if you don't have your healthy power, if there's like a threat of like wolves, for example, I can't trust that you've got my back, right? Like if I can't set a boundary with the horse, they can't trust that I can set a boundary with a wolf. So they're like, well, I guess I'm on my own. So they're not going to respect what I'm asking them to do, even if I'm doing my best. But if I don't really feel that sense of healthy empowerment, that grounded confidence, they're going to be like, now I actually feel kind of stressed around you and I'm too responsible. And I'm going to now start to have behaviors that are expressing that lack of safety. And maybe that's a little bit of bullying behavior. Maybe that's a little bit of flightiness or spookiness, kind of having quick reactions. They're not going to have that sense of calm. But then the other side is also true. If we're too far swung on the strength side, if we're too powerful, but we don't have access to our heart, if we're not connected to the vulnerable side of being human or just of being, then they're like, well, I guess I'm going to do what you tell me because it's really, really intensely communicated. But I'm also going to rebel a little bit potentially because I don't really feel you. And I don't actually feel safe either because I don't sense that you care about me deeply. I don't sense that the reasons why you're asking me things is connected to the good of the herd, to my well-being, to others' well-being, this like value of connection and community and being seen for the essence of who I am and being valued, that's missing. And it's also missing in you, human, because when we close that off in our heart to others, we're actually closing it off to ourselves too. So again, they're like, this is only part, like one side of the coin. You're not the full being that I need to feel very safe with your presence from one side or the other. And so it's not that we need to be really kind and friendly and nice and then switch over to being really strong and powerful. They want us to do both at the same time. And I think that's a very challenging paradox to embrace, of being both powerful and gentle, strong and vulnerable, soft and strong, however it's going to land. But it's possible. It's possible. Even in the way that we communicate a boundary, to kind of put this in human terms, it can be a very harsh, don't do that. Or it can be, it's not okay with me when that happens. This would be okay, but this is not okay. Right? And to have a conversation, or even if it has to not be a conversation, no, I'm going to pass. No, thank you. where we're not having any kind of judgment or shaming of the other being for maybe stepping over the line. We're just clarifying where the line is and being willing to move forward and being willing to step it up too if we have to, knowing that we have that in us, but we're not closing our heart at the same time. Heart open, deep, powerful. So I'm saying that in context to your question, because how do we either support someone who might be in a role that they have to be very strong and capable all the time, and they're really, really intensely helping people, whatever version of that we're talking about. Or if we're the one who's in that role where day in and day out, we are going and fighting all kinds of battles, and we are having to put on that armor and put on that uniform and wear that heavy, heavy protection layer to just get through the day. Can we make space that we're more than that, but that part of us is also valid? Where we're not throwing one out to make space for the other. They can both exist. It's a both and, not an either or. So as we're actually talking to someone, if we know someone who might be in that situation, of course, every context is going to be different, but some language around just being able to see the person. Like, can we really see each other? Can we really see ourselves? To say, hey, I notice that there's maybe some stuff going on. I see you. Do you want to chat about it? Is there any way that I can be supportive? What does support look like to you right now? And no matter how the person responds, not to get our feathers ruffled about it, to know that we're offering it with this kindness, but not in this like sympathy babying way, not in this way where we pity them, not in this way where we make it their fault, not in this way where we make it like you should be stronger, but you're not, and not in this way where it's like that job is bad. Why would you choose that? You're just a human, that's ridiculous. All can exist together. All can exist together. And so for those who might be experiencing that job or that life, that it's not a mistake that you chose to do. You might not want to keep doing it, but it's amazing that you've done it so far, and it's understandable that you're struggling, and you're incredibly capable and strong. And of course, you would be a vulnerable human and need support too. All are true.
Absolutely. The word, as you were talking about, all I could think of was balance. It doesn't have to be either or. They can both exist together. When you're going to work and you know what you're about to walk into, have those tough conversations with family members, when it comes to level of care, whatever's happening with the patient, you have to be the strong one in the room. And, the pictures and things that circulate a lot of the times where you see nurses in the hallway crying, they do that because they can't do it in front of your family. They do that because they cannot do it in front of the patient. And I've seen comments like, well, they chose this career. Yes, they did. They're still humans. Yes, they did. They're still humans. And things of that nature said about the military as well, or police officers, first responders, who see a lot. There's a human being behind that, shield, behind that uniform, behind that scrubs, behind the convoy, whatever it is. There's still a person behind that, despite the work description, the job description that they're doing. They took up that responsibility. It doesn't mean that they sold themselves and their safety and well-being and mental health. They need help and they need support. And be that support person that is not judgmental. It is useful. Just like Carmen said, if you don't know how to respond, just try not to say anything and say, you know what, you're here.
Yeah. And not to fix, if I could just jump in and say, yes, not to try and fix, because we are not problems to be fixed. We are beings to be seen and heard and feel like we belong and feel like we're safe. So whether someone's disclosing something to us or not, we can just hold space for that. Hold space for them not wanting to talk about it. Hold space for them wanting to talk about it. Not having to jump in with our own backstory that we think relates. Just like listening and honoring that and trusting that our active presence is what we can offer in the best way. And then we can encourage them if that there are other supports out there, and maybe we don't have the answers or the ideas on that, but that there are supports there. So we can offer, what does support look like for you to find the right places? Or if we can't even do that, maybe it's just a conversation and we just encourage that, like, there's hope. We don't have to be stuck. There's hope. And not even like saying it, communicating it in our heart, communicating it in our body language, in our tone of voice, because we're not afraid of the feelings, because we all have feelings. It's understandable that they would come forward. So I really appreciate this conversation. I really hope that this is offering whoever that listener might be that really needs to hear this right now. And if we are the person who like really wants to jump in and like fix it, and like we're so uncomfortable with whatever people are sharing with us that that's our pattern, maybe we don't even realize that we're uncomfortable. Maybe it's just so patterned that that's how we respond. Yeah. There's no judgment on that either.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what we want to keep doing.
Right.
But it's understandable also, because all of these pieces, we're not given great role models on any of these things. We're not really taught how to do it well. In fact, our society pretty much teaches us the opposite.
Absolutely.
So if there's any interest on improving these pieces, on getting better for our own well-being and others' well-being, we're already doing great. Just keep being curious of how to keep learning. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also you can ask, do you want me to listen, or do you want me to offer a solution or advice, right? For anybody who makes that decision to talk to you, there's a certain level of trust there, right? And, you know, with that trust, you want to build on it. When you're tempted to say something or offer solutions, like, okay, are you venting? Do you want to a listening ear to vent? Sometimes it's just that, right? Let me get it out of my head and into the atmosphere, right? Let me just get it out. So, and you can ask, do you want to vent? Do you want me to be a listening ear? Or would you like me to offer a solution if you are a fixer? Because there are people that are fixers that are really great at being fixers, right? The people that can, you know, see the other side of things to offer a different perspective. They're outside of the box thinkers. And if you're that person, you know, we need you. If you're not sure of how to approach a situation where somebody's being vulnerable, you know, with something sensitive, ask. Would you like me to offer a solution, advice, or do you just want me to listen? And somebody might start a conversation with, I just want you to listen. And then at the end is like, what do you think? You know?
Yeah.
So good for you. You can jump in and, you know, put on your cape at that point.
Yes.
Let's not be afraid of talking or having a conversation or asking the questions. In asking questions, you get to know what the right or the not so right questions are. So ask. Do you want a solution, or you just want to listen? So
totally. One of the questions that I was offered that really stuck with me for this particular purpose is, would you like to be helped, heard, or hugged?
Like that.
Me
Some
too.
people just want a hug.
Right.
Some people just want a hug. Oh, I'm going to use that. Would you like to be heard, helped, or hugged?
Yeah.
I like that. Yes, ask. You know, am I hugging you with words or physically? What are you into? Because there's some people that don't want to be touched.
Right.
But, you know, certain words just feel like a nice warm hug. And it's good to know. Okay, see, I told you, you learned something. I learned something, and I took something away from this conversation.
I'm so glad.
Oh my goodness, this is so great. So let's talk about the horses. The beautiful horses you have at Sense North. And horses are known to be very intuitive, and you talked about that as the conversation continued today. So for people who are coming on the healing journey, participating in, you know, your classes and the environment, and they're not used to or do not have a history of a relationship with a horse, is there like an introduction, you know, to get that strong yet soft approach when handling a horse?
Yes, there is. We do a little bit of preparation time, whether it's a workshop day or a program or just a couple of hours of a session for an individual. There's always the first part that's human to human. So we're doing some practice of tools that are supportive for our horse time. So like some regulation tools and some awareness of our body, that kind of thing. But we're also learning some pieces around horses and their body language, what they might be expressing with their face, that kind of thing, without that needing to be something that's memorized, without that needing to be something that's like, and now you should know and good luck, right? That's part of why I'm there. So to make sure that it's safe, that I'm coaching people through, maybe if there's a sticky point, like that there's support in that experience. Sometimes the experience is quiet the whole time. Sometimes I'm actually engaging with them when they're actually with the horse. It just is going to depend on the session. But we do work with people who have no horse experience or even negative horse experience, I'll say, if they have a big fear, or all the way up to Olympic level riders. I've worked with people with tremendous horse experience. And it doesn't matter because even people who have lots of horse experience don't necessarily have a lot of background of interacting with horses in this kind of way. And even if they do, I mean, I've been doing this kind of work for a long time. I learn from the horses every interaction I have with them. It's like, just because I understand human body language and, maybe I've met you before in Idongesit, that doesn't mean that today I know what you're going to say. I have nothing to learn. Like every interaction is different. Every interaction is new. And for those who have no experience, our herd members are amazing teachers. They've all gone through their own cycles of healing to be able to do this work safely and pretty powerfully, but not powerfully in an unsafe way. Just they're so tuned in. They feel so capable, empowered themselves to be in that teacher and healer role. So they're not trying to like, how can I be a good horse? They're like, I'm just going to be myself. And in a way that's still safe for the person, but I get to just be myself. And I know that that's what's healing and helping because that's what I've been learning to do. And I think that's what they're teaching us to do. How do we be ourselves? And how do we be in relationship in this balanced way? Like you were saying, right? So there's so many different options of how that can look. No two sessions are ever the same. Sometimes the horse will be really that like steady, calming force for a person. And sometimes that horse will be a bit of a pushing our buttons because they want us to step into our healthy, more whole version of being empowered. So it just depends on the moment, on the dynamic, on the day. But it's always the feedback I get is that it seems like the horse offered the perfect lesson for that moment, for that person. And that's where I can offer lots of science of how the horses are so helpful and, being in their vicinity, it actually changes our heart's frequency. Like all of that, there's some really cool stuff to back up why horses are powerful teachers and healers for us. But there's some stuff that science is just not even close to catching up on. And that Indigenous communities worldwide have probably known for time immemorial. And that we're just starting to scratch the surface of. So, when I see how the horses are operating, they truly have this intention of helping us evolve and heal. Because that is, when we heal, we evolve.
Yeah.
And I have goosebumps just thinking about all the different experiences where they just seem to know what we need and how we need it to do that growth.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So the horses that you do have when it comes to this healing journey, do you ever add to the herd, or these are herds that have, grown over the years together? And, if you're adding to your herd, given that, again, the work that you do, the horses that you do currently have, to understand the human interaction in a sense. Is there like a specific work that you put into that, when you bring a new horse on to get them? Because they do also, some horses also do experience their own set of traumas and they also need healing and create human interaction. So how does that go, Carmen?
Yeah, I love this question. I appreciate it in a big way because I can tell how much you see the horses in that question. So that just makes my heart happy. We have had horses come and go in our herd over the years. Most of them just come and stay and live their life here. There's a couple who have left because they had a human owner, and I put that in quotes. Their human was not me, so their human moved further away, and they had to take them off property, which was very hard. So that's why actually we'll only have horses who are now here for life, because that transition is very difficult. So the herd has changed, and of course we add to our herd as we've lost some herd members too. They've passed away. They got to that point in their life cycle. So there's always, not always, but there's often a changing dynamic every time we bring a new horse in, every time a horse leaves, and especially bringing a horse in. Not only do we have to pay attention to the dynamics amongst the herd to make sure that their community is healthy and safe, but we also need to support that individual horse to transition into this new life and new career. So most horses, just like most people, have experienced some trauma or even significant amounts of trauma. And before I will ever put a horse with a human client, they will have time to decompress here, to kind of learn about what this work is like by interacting with me, interacting with the others on our team, and really being part of the herd here, learning from the other horses. It's amazing to see how the other horses actually start to teach that horse not only about the herd dynamics and, what's going on amongst themselves, but what's happening when they go do the client work. I've seen horses almost like having these little meetings with each other before they go and work with the client, and then a little meeting upon return. Some people are going to listen to that and think that I'm like totally off my rocker. That's fine. Take it with a grain of salt.
You're doing correct.
Yeah, they're really teaching each other. Yeah. So there's that piece. And then I do put a lot of time and effort into supporting that individual horse in their healing cycles. Some require it more than others. We have a horse on the property right now, part of our herd. His name is Loki, and he's our newest herd member. So glad he's part of our family here and part of our team. He's been here for almost a year, maybe almost exactly a year. He's now working pretty consistently with clients. It took many, many months and the greater part of a year for me to have him do the kind of work he's doing now. He started off very slowly, very gently. He had a lot of his own recovery to do. He had a lot of his own settling to do. He had to learn that we were going to be consistent with him. He had to learn that our responses were fair and trustworthy. And he had to learn that the kind of work we wanted him to do was really to help him also. And so every time we're doing this kind of healing work with the horses, yes, they're helping us. They're working hard, but it's also giving them something back. It's reciprocal. And he had to learn that that was something he could trust, that he wasn't just going to be used and abused. So it took a long time for him to kind of settle into that. And now that he is and he's so expressive about his excitement to do the work. We had a workshop here yesterday, and we had a client who was walking around the farm, and he's just locked onto her with his ears and his eyes. And he's just like, I have things to teach you. Like, he was so excited to be in his role. And that could never be possible if he didn't feel safe and seen and heard and like he belonged also. So they really need the same kinds of things that we do. It's just not with our human languages, but it's with our mother tongue of that shared nervous system language. The language of whether we feel safe and connected or not.
Yeah.
So the more we can help each other feel safe and connected, horses, humans, whoever, the greater our healing and empowerment will be, the more free we will feel to be our whole selves. So the same thing goes for the horses.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. How old is Loki?
He would be around 10. Yeah.
Sweet boy.
Yeah.
Hey, Loki. Hope I get to meet you someday.
I hope so too.
Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful story. It's the shared nervous system. And when you talked about that, I would say this comfortably that most people don't understand the connection we have with animals. especially horses. Horses are for some reason, very attuned to the human experience and the human nervous system in a sense. Because again, you said it earlier, if you're nervous or you're anxious, the horse is going to be anxious. They balk, they pull away. And, for horses that do not really they have to be confident, even with dogs, right? I had a show on TV years ago. It was about either housebreaking or training a dog, one of those, dynamic where dogs were just not listening to their own something, just living the way they wanted to live. And the one consistent conversation is that the dog has to trust you to lead it, right? If a dog doesn't trust you as a strong leader, the dog is going to just do what they do in whatever behavior they can exhibit that. And it's so cool to have animals, creatures that have been domesticated be so attuned to the human experience, especially human interaction. They look to us for leadership. It's almost like children. A child with structure will
they will thrive.
Structure, this is, whatever, this is where I operate, and I can be myself within the structure. A child with no structure is all over. So it's so cool. And this is why I enjoy talking to people who are passionate about what they do, because there's always something to learn. There's always that connection that you may not have thought about, or maybe thought about, but you didn't quite understand it. Yes, science is science. Science is advanced, but there's so much we're yet to know and learn. And exploring the horse-human connection is something exciting. And, I'm looking forward to what we find out, more of what we find out. So, Carmen, this was such a wonderful conversation. And for our listeners who are intrigued by the work that you do and are looking to learn more, where can they find you on the internet? What is that process like in reaching out, asking questions maybe, or working with you?
Thank you for that. If anyone wants to learn more, our website's a great place. horsesensenorth.com, HORSESENSENORTH.com. Also, I want to mention we have now a free wellness community that we do every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called Back to Grazing, because I think this world really is very challenging and stressful. So this is one way that I can offer something, building a bit of a community for others to support each other, as well as walking people through some embodiment pieces and some guided visualizations, a lot of stuff that's kind of horse inspired to help us go back to the grazing. So in the horse world, let's say they see something that they're concerned about, they lift their head, maybe they ran around, there was some stress, but then they come back to this sense of calm and peace by eating some grass and kind of coming back to grazing, coming back down into the sense of calm and peace. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. You can look that up on our website too. But Idongesit, it was such a pleasure to be in this conversation with you. I can tell that you're just such an amazing human being of service to your communities as well. And I really appreciate you having me on your podcast.
No, I thank you for that. Let me accept it. It's rude to not accept it. Thank you for your wonderful words. I do my best in my corner of the world to make a difference. And it has been really incredible journey to meet people like you who are doing their side of a difference in the world that we all share. So the pleasure is all mine, and I'm superly grateful that you made time for this conversation, because we never know who we will inspire. We never know what corner of the earth somebody's listening to that this conversation will be really useful to. So for us to be blessed with this medium where we can talk, despite geographical location differences, where we can actually talk and have a conversation that benefits and impacts people in a positive way, is really, 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 really cool. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work that you do. I'm grateful that you've made time to be here and bless us with your presence and knowledge. It was such a great time. And for everybody, I know Carmen did talk about the website and, the different programs. We'll make sure that the show notes is heavy on everything Carmen, including the website. So you can just click into it. The organization is Horse Sense North. It's going to be there, and you click into it and you can find all that you need to find. Also, Carmen, I usually ask my guests to leave a few golden nuggets. Or you can leave a bag. I mean, you left us with like a few bags already, but, we still want more. Leave us with some sweet gems. What would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation today? Whether they're a support system for somebody, or they're caregivers, caretakers, and first responders, or humans that exist in this beautiful world of ours, right? What would you like them to take away today?
Oh, I would love people to take away this feeling that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're experiencing or feeling, that you are not broken, and that how you are experiencing the world makes sense, and that it also doesn't have to stay this hard forever. So can we collectively make more space for all of that to make sense, for it to be okay, and to have that seed of possibility that we hold close in our heart, that there is room to heal, to grow, and to feel more whole and free.
Yes, thank you. You're not broken. Your experience is unique to you. And there's hope, right? This does not have to be a full stop. It's a colon. Continue the story. Okay? You've got this, right? Thank you, Carmen, for that. That was so powerful. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And I hope and pray that something was said today that resonated with you, whether you're a support system for somebody or you're somebody looking for support. We both collectively hope you got something from it, to heal further. And again, if you have questions or if you'd like to know about Carmen's services, click into the website, ask questions, send an email, something, inquire, and see if that works for you. And if, the program aligns with what you think you might need in your healing journey, work that out. If not, again, there are resources, okay? Find resources. Thank you again, Carmen. Thank you, everybody. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.